Alright, so I have about a minute or something to talk about every single one of these. So the first one is Taric, support jungle Taric. Pretty much he needs absolutely no items in order to do his job, so he'll do damage, support, like a utility, while being a massive fucking hard-ass thing to kill. So he's probably the best support jungler in the game right now. Again, high damage, high survivability, high, gold values in his abilities. His W gives your team armor, lots of armor, and your ultimate is gives your team an incredible amount of stats, and he still deals a lot of damage just with pure utility support tank items. This guy's still broken even with his latest nerf, but he's broken as a support jungler. It's like he's not gonna, you can't really build him as a fighter from the jungle. He's all pure cooldowns and all that cool stuff. So bam, he's number one just because he's simply too gold efficient, and that is amazing for a support or in a jungler too. Anyways, next one is nasus. This is kind of what he's been doing this entire time. He gives him his team, well, it removes gold from the enemy team by being an armor shred. Shred armor, they lose effective armor, and his wither is amazing too. It kind of does the same thing with attack speed. So he's pretty much he's an offensive or sort of defensive support that exists right now, and he himself is insanely gold efficient. He can buy the most basic of poor ass items and still do his job incredibly well. Then his ultimate makes him a god. So remember, support junglers are all about being insanely gold efficient while still being completely useful. And nasus fits that. He does damage, lots of damage, similar to Taric. He deals well with tanks. He quote unquote infinitely scales, even though that's just kind of a bonus thing for support nasus. And he has a lot of gold value or removal of gold value in his abilities. Stripping it from his enemy team. He's really good. Next one is again Nunu. He's kind of the staple for support junglers. He gives his team the blood boy and himself, and that's really, really a lot of gold value in that little thing itself. He's super self-sustained. He's fast for a support jungler. He's pretty annoying. He's good at ganking. He's good at invasion. He's good at control. He can survive on very little gold, so he can ward every fucking thing in the game. So he's still just Nunu in essence, and everybody already knows support Nunu. It's been beaten to death, and I don't have to explain it. But in this case, this is why, as everybody knows, why he's high up in the support tier list, or the support category. Though, of course, he's outdone by Taric's ability to be a murder machine, and nasus' ability to also be a murder machine, and just all around be more gold efficient than Nunu. I mean, they've nerfed Nunu a little bit, but he's still amazing. Like, he's still just stupidly easy to use as support and everything. Next one is Lee Sin, and I'm surprised some people don't consider him a support. Like, he has everything a support would need. So, like, he doesn't require lots of gold. He buys only aura items. He has a lot of debuffs, and he's got a shield. He's got crowd control in some ways, and he has a unique form of support ability that not many champions have, and that's vision. Press E, gives vision for around you for a little while. Or whatever targets you hit. That's kind of invaluable against some opponents, especially stealthers. So it's a little bit more specific there, or it's great when chasing so they don't hide in the bushes or whatever. And he's all around a very strong character, He can go from support, if you intend him to be support and you get fed, you go assassin. Everybody already knows this. So, but the point is, Lee Sin is an amazing jungler, and his support spec is very viable, and the whole combination of the whole thing is what makes him go up here, at least better than the other characters. Gold value wise, it isn't as high, but the fact that he can murder people, it makes him go up. Next one is Warwick, and even less so, people would consider him not support. The thing is, he doesn't go support lane. Of course he doesn't. But as a jungler, he can function as a support in the right builds. I mean, the right team comps. Like, some people say, oh, he should be a fighter. Yeah, he's a fighter. And as he support, he's still going to be a fighter. You don't necessarily have to build him, Shirelias or that kind of shit. You build them auras, and you build them cooldown reduction, and you spam the shit out of the W. In certain team comps, that W is ungodly. The whole thing is, I forgot the right exact math. It's thousands and thousands and thousands of gold worth of, stats, especially considering that attack speed items were gutted, and attack speed steroids were also gutted, and Warwick's W stayed the same. The damn thing is worth so much more gold than it ever has been. as far as I know. And that alone makes him an amazing support jungler in the right team comps. I know Draven and Caitlyn fucking love him. Next one is Maokai. Maokai, too, is one of the more creative support junglers. Some will say, but like we already know he's support jungler. Well, remember, CC isn't being counted when it comes to support junglers, or else I'd be stacked with the crap out of other junglers. So the way that Maokai is considered a support jungler is through his ultimate and his saplings to an extent. Saplings are vision, very minor, but still. His ultimate is like a lot of gold value. It's a lot of effective gold. You cast it, your team is protected from damage while they're standing in there for some percentage. And depending on your characters and depending on the enemy team or whatever's happening, the gold value of it can be ridiculous. So it's very cost effective. It's very useful. So you can be the most fucked up Maokai you got destroyed in the game, but that ultimate can become infinitely valuable. And that is what makes a Maokai very strong. A support jungler. That and he's fucking Maokai. Next one is Kayle. Now, Kayle, we all know, and everybody will argue, but she's a great fighter. Yeah, I'm not doubting she's a great fighter. But as when it comes to support Kayle, either she got screwed or she intended to build herself this entire time. I mean, this way. Support Kayle, her ultimate, well, no, first her W is, it's okay. It's like an okay, they nerfed the crap out of it, but it's just an okay thing. But it's where her ultimate comes into play. As a support, she can do some good damage, even without having the most optimal damage build. So that's something, a support supplying damage, that's always great. But the ultimate is of infinite value, depending on how it is used or which opponents, yada yada, that kind of stuff. Its gold value can be ridiculous. If the enemy team has nothing but burst characters and you get somebody with your ultimate at the right time, bam, that thing's just kind of, worth billions of gold right there, because you just kind of destroy the enemy team just by protecting one character. So the ultimate alone is what makes her a very viable jungle support. Warwick is one of the more curious support junglers. There's no real other place to put him because he doesn't really work as a bruiser that well or anything else. But as a support, he's in the lower tiers, but he sort of like in his utility and his gold value is completely variable to the team. I mean, sure, Kayle's is similar in that way, but Warwick's is the only one that can hyperscale or something. Well, it depends completely on whoever the hell you ultimate. Like if you have a really fed Vayne and you put the ultimate on her, no matter how broke ass your Warwick is, he just made your team into godlike status or whatever. It can be arguably better than Kayle's, but worse at the same time. It all depends on the team comp he's used, but it's never really, it can't ever really be... I don't really know what I say. You can't really rely on it to be actually useful. So Jungle Warwick's kind of a limbo kind of support jungler. The next one is Gangplank. He's purely offensive support. We all know that. I mean, his ultimate gives him CC, but of course CC is being taken into this count only after the fact that he gives stat boost. His E gives your team movement speed and power, damaging attack power. So on the right team comp, its value is multiplied. On the wrong team comp, it's not. Like I've seen people play Jungle Gangplank with a team that had 3 AP characters and a Varus. On Varus, it's a mixed kind of thing. And I was question is like, this doesn't make sense. None of these characters actually use the stats he's giving them. Maybe a movement speed a little. So I don't know why he went Jungle Gangplank. But I've seen Jungle Gangplank dominant even in season 3 when the entire team was pretty much composed of AD and had a lot of armor shred. So in some kind of way that kind of worked. He's purely offensive support, and his gold values depend on your strict team comp. He's very specific. He can work, but he's got his own issues, clearing and crap. Gragas is one that people demanded I have, and, he works as support. He buy auras. He's self-sustained with his own abilities and his kit. He's very safe, and his Q can rend attack speed, which attack speed is very valuable right now. So it's okay, and he can initiate, which is a very cool thing. He's a support character with really weird ass initiation. So he's pretty much average across the board in every jungler aspect, and the support kind of role he's kind of very niche and limited, but people wanted him, and he pretty much fits the criteria, so he came in here. I mean, buy auras on him and cooldown reduction, spam the barrel on the right targets, run around in circles and punch soft people, and it's like he'll die pretty quickly, but if you get a good ultimate and you hit the right person with your Q, you'll do your job. while still supplying cool, crazy ass auras. Hell, if you get fed off the jungle, you might as well go AP. So he's got that going for him at least. And the last one is Galio. Now Galio is a curious one. Is like he's a very curious jungler. Like he actually works out pretty well. He's actually sustained mana kind of like you take your Q and then you get your W and then you just spam your W whenever it's up, and the minions basically heal you. It's like you'll be at pretty much full health and you'll at most use one potion. It's like he's a super sustained jungler, and he's kind of fast after a certain point. The problem is he's a very expensive jungler. The amount of gold he requires is ridiculous, so it kind of limits his usability as a support jungler. However, his shield thing, it's a very gold effect. Like it's really good gold wise. Like, you know, effective gold, artificial gold, or whatever you want to call it. So it's good, but it's really not that good. So Jungle Galios as a support exists, but the gold constraints keep him from actually being worthwhile as a pick.